Alright, I'm gonna need everyone's attention, and I'll just say it straight up. This video might be a rambling mess. I'm pretty good at talking off the top of my head, so much so I get people thinking I do scripts for these videos. No, it's all off the top of my head. No scripts, no notes, it's just me. But I already know I'm gonna be a bloody mess with this episode. Let's just set the stage. Great episode. Short King's winning. We're kind of confessed but not being confessed. Powerful romance. Beautiful. Love it. It's great. But how in the hell does this work? Every instinct out of the 1,000 anime I've seen, I know this doesn't work. And yet somehow the dangers in my heart, the author, and the amazing studio, the team adapting this, has made the confession that isn't a confession that is a confession. And I'm gonna go through the math here. Like, this formula does not work, but it does work. Like, it shouldn't exist this well. Let's rewind. And please tell me I'm not alone being baffled by how we're not upset. Because we should be. Usually when the confession's dragged out, we're like, oh man, they're just doing it. But it's like, of course it makes more sense because these kids are like 13, 14 years old. So their ages shield them from a lot of criticisms you'd have if this was high school or college or adult life. But let's really consider the fact that we ended last week's episode with Yamada saying, I like someone. That was basically a confession that wasn't a confession. They both recognized that Yamada was saying that in the room where Ichikawa could overhear, meaning that everything that they've been doing would realize that, oh, she likes me. This episode. We then have the karaoke stuff. She sits in the room with him alone after stumbling out. And she's like, oh, why are you here? And he does the confession that isn't a confession. I didn't like seeing you with the basketball boys, and then like the hug. It's so like, okay, last episode, the confession that was a confession, but wasn't really a confession, leads into Ichikawa doing a confession that kind of wasn't a confession that was a confession, which he's been doing a lot of throughout the show. So even if you don't want to include that one, whatever. My boy says she's mine, and her head explodes like a tomato. If you didn't count the karaoke as a confession that wasn't a confession that is a confession, that one certainly was. And then to make matters even more insane, he gives her this piece of jewelry, the White Day gift of he made her a homemade cupcake that was the same as hers, and with the bracelet. Every instinct in my body is saying I should be upset usually because, oh, how are they not a couple? But it's so fucking sweet, and it somehow works. I'm going back to 4 videos ago or so when I said it's gotta be Yamada who does the confessing. And I'm going back to that. The Short King's doing his stuff and he's making his moves, he's nervous and everything. But I really truly feel she is gonna be the one to be like, hey, we should date first. I really feel that. This is breaking me in the best possible way. I have a full live reaction over on my Patreon if you want to see me, I don't even know what I say usually. It's over there if you're interested. It's good times. I don't know, man. Do they date next episode? Maybe. I remember I said White Day seemed like the likely opportunity 4 or 5 videos back. But we're at the point where I don't know. This has actually broke me because if you explain this to any person who has seen a dozen romances, and I guarantee you out of that dozen, at least half have the, oh shit, they dragged it out just because they don't know how to write normal drama or they don't know how to write a relationship. They would say, oh, that sounds horrible. The age of the characters is a very big importance about this. They aren't kids in the sense of like they're 8 years old, but they're not really proper teenagers either. So they're in this weird middle ground where they're smart in the way that they can recognize their friends being like, wait, you guys aren't dating, but you pretty much hang out every day. Like, Ichikawa and Yamada are able to look at their little double date partners and be like, oh, they're dating without dating. But then they can say the same thing about them without realizing it about themselves. But at the same time, I love the growth that we've gone through. The idea that we have the drama that's in this show should be way more infuriating than it is, because it's not infuriating at all. The idea that when they separate, right, like, because like, oh, she got lost, and it's like the most obvious thing ever. They're sitting on the bench and she's talking about how like, oh, this is actually much better than anything else, and he's like, oh, what are we supposed to do? And he's like, well, let's just go home. This should be a situation where okay, the boy didn't have the confidence. He's very embarrassed about shit. Makes sense. He's gone through the ringer recently, and honestly, since the show started. And the idea of her shielding him, you have some, because like, this is what I mean, and this is why I feel like she has to do the "I'm gonna date you" thing. She knows he has something for her. It's White Day. She ain't stupid. She knows she likes him and he likes her. And because of that push, because of that little nudge, we get the exchange. And after he is hating himself, thinking she hates the jewelry, she grabs him. All we need is for her to just do it. Just do it. And we're so close. And I don't know. I'm saying it like the past 2 or 3 episodes. We're 10 episodes away or 1 episode away from it happening. I guess maybe next week. Maybe the week after. I'd probably by the end of the season at the very least. Yet somehow they keep managing to do confessions that are confessions that aren't confessions all mixed into one. And I'm eager for the next one. If they don't date by the end of next episode, I already know I'm going to be okay with it. I'll just be shocked. How the hell is this show so sweet? How can we have these moments where the sisters hyping up our boy, talking about his Riz status, basically being like, you gotta learn how to deny the girls. The fact that we have this like super awkward scene at the karaoke where a few of the girls are like, oh, you're the cool guy who gave the speech, pushes him in there, and then he runs out cringing as hell. And then as we're having this romantic hug confession like scene, they're spying on. I'm just like, this show's fantastic. The death glares. I mean, this is the most death glares Yamada's ever given in a single episode. Add in his pal here that looks like Potato from The Eminence in Shadow. Absolutely crazy. I need a Tums, man. Like, my chest is hurting from how spicy I'm getting, but it's spicy in a way that I'm not mad. I'm just so baffled. From the bottom of my heart, this is how shocked I am. I've never experienced... I've seen many of rom-coms. Plenty. Rom-coms for the longest time was my favorite anime genre. Like, I've seen most that people talk about, and well, in the past like 5 years or so, I don't watch as many seasonally as I used to. It's just because I don't know, because once you've seen a few, you kind of see them all. Like, even I think with how people talk about isekais, I feel like rom-coms can actually be way more generic and boring than most isekais, if I'm being honest, just because like they really follow the stretched out formula. And then the dangers in my heart comes in with like a goddamn wrecking ball like Miley Cyrus swinging in here, shattering expectations, and it's 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on best episode? Probably. Last episode is probably the best. Now this one, hell if I know, it's just going to keep getting better. Let me know what you're feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more. And like I mentioned, full live reaction if you want to see me a little more focused in and not as broken. It's over on my Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we have Jed Mons in 9173, Durhosh, Franklin Greenway, Hikari Lounge, Flutchbringer, and Adol. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.